Hey, welcome to the digital experience retro on our iterations. This is retro 17 for the cycle from June 21st of 2021 to today, July 1st of 2021. It'd be wild if it wasn't of 2021, right? It's a super long sprint. It's just like 2022. Anyway, sorry, didn't land. Joke didn't land. But we'll go on to things that went well in the agenda. Sometimes things just don't land, so that one didn't go well. But I do have the first one here, which is uh, like a mixed bag, right? Like I'm technically behind on my deliverables. I've said a few times, I really wanted to get the comparison infographic ready for review like yesterday so I could like release it today. But the nice thing is that I think we did a really good job of like planning and appropriately scoping the like bigger project that it's a part of, so that even though I'm behind in this like piece of it, the overall goal we're super on track for. Tina's ahead of schedule, and so yeah, like I'm feeling good about that. It's just one of those things. I think there's like a emotional feeling of like it feels good to get stuff out the door, and it feels bad to like not do that, right? Like I'll probably honestly finish it between today and tomorrow because I have a bunch of focus time tomorrow, but it's like didn't hit it for Wednesday, couldn't say it in the release video, which but either way, I'm still feeling good about it overall, and I think it's I feel like that went well. I think the bigger picture planning stuff has gone well here. So Jess, I think you've got the next one.
Yeah, so I spent a real good chunk of last week, like 4 days, cleaning up the slippers Figma just to make sure everything was accurate to where we're at now. So this kind of all the designs have been built through attrition since like October. It's natural that things have varied and we missed some stuff along the way. So just making sure like we're using mobile fonts on mobile, that we're pulling through the slippers colors rather than just using the hex codes, things like that. So I got through everything. And that will make designing a lot easier, especially across, between me and Stephen and Tina and any other designer that might come and use it. We'll all be working from the exact same palette and everything. And hopefully this will also help in the future, collaborating with the developers. So we're very certain that like we're using the right things at the right places. So when we come from our designs, they're accurate and they get built accurately in Storybook or wherever. I think Tyler, you had a question around do these changes need to be updated in the Storybook? I'd say for the most part, no. They're more just like incidental things that we kind of slipped up on.
Gotcha.
However, there are some things. So like I know I started writing it and then I started talking, but Tina is working with Laura on like making sure the type stack names are correct and like those are all together. There might be some other things that we can work on as well.
Cool.
I haven't
That was
read through all
actually,
these yet.
yeah, that had been my follow-up. That makes sense. Like this is like cleaning up stuff that had been incorrect a little bit. And then but thinking about the like getting stuff in line with like Storybook and like what we're building on the dev side. I know like the type style names, but it sounds like Tina and Laura are working on this. Like in Figma, a lot of type styles will be called like H1, but they like in our Tailwind config, that the sizing that it corresponds to is like size XL or whatever. Like those things seem to be are at this point I just matched the values rather than looking at the names, but it sounds like you've
Yeah.
got that covered. So I'm super excited about that. Thank you for all that work.
Yeah, Laura, just to add to that, Laura has volunteered to work with me on either most likely aligning Figma to Storybook, but we're going to just probably create a spreadsheet, figure out the labeling for those. We'll create that spreadsheet and then include Stephen and Jess to add to that. And I want to mention also that Javi is working on aligning the cards to Figma in Storybook. So there is a bit of code change there.
Yeah, and there were a couple small new things. So we did add a brand new type font, whatever it's called. And then maybe that can be grouped in with what Tina and Laura are doing. Realized we were using a couple different link styles, and I think maybe one of them can be deprecated, but I don't know how much work that would be on the engineering side. Added glitter as a component. I'm not sure if you guys are using it as a component already, but we realized we're using the same pattern over and over. So we turned that into a design component. Just some little things like that.
So is it confetti or glitter? We need to figure
I
that
was just
out.
saying we do have a confetti component, but we don't have a glitter component. But it might
Yeah.
be the same
I've
thing.
Yeah, I think
I've
confetti
added
is
it.
the right word.
Yeah, I've added it in Figma as confetti because that's what we've been calling it since the start. Glitter was new to me, so I mean, nothing wrong with that. Maybe we can have a glitter component further down the line.
Funfetti,
Funfetti.
Funfetti, ooh, I like that one.
bake a cake.
I always try and put words together: confetti and glitter.
Gitfetti.
It's
Yeah,
like
get
the
fetty.
beginning.
Oh, that's really good.
Ooh, get fetty.
Confetti.
Get fetty is really good.
Branded
That's a
that.
good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Should give that to the brand team. Oh, that was actually I didn't add it in here, but as I say that we got the new brand standards, or they're kind of in progress. We might need to there's no obligation for us to make a change, but when there are new brand standards and hex values, and myself and Jess are probably painfully familiar with this from previous companies, that every time there's a new version of it, you get like a slight difference with the hex value as it goes and as it goes and as it goes. So it might be something to just keep an eye on. It's not going to get in the way of the work that we do because we're sort of under a different directive. But in terms of brand consistency, it is something to keep an eye on, and probably not something that we want to put by the wayside too long. Because the further out you push a decision or something like that, the more expensive it gets because you just got to have to go back and change things. Just something to be aware of. That's all.
Yeah, regarding like brand color changes, like the way that Tailwind is set up now is that as long as we don't change the variable names of things, the CSS classes will be exactly the same. So if as long as we change hex values within existing colors within Storybook, within Tailwind, we should have no issues with like the engineering side of things.
Yeah, that's what I had thought too. As long as we're not actually adhering to anything specific that they've given us, which I don't think they have, we just need to take abstract hex values and use them to apply to whatever contrast color that we have, or whatever the version of the color that we have is. So it kind of works like a token, basically. So it's abstract from any kind of naming. So yeah, it's not too much trouble, but I don't think it's anything that we need to be too concerned about for the minute.
Sweet. And Stephen, you had another note under Jess's item here about this, about working meeting UI to code something. Do you want to?
Yeah, just that now as we're like, we built a design system, it got up to a certain place, we began to use it, and as we go, and it's just the nature of systems, as you go, variables can kind of enter the fray as you go. People can use different line heights for things, not through intention or any kind of malice, but it just happens. So it's good every now and then to do like a pulse check or kind of an audit on things to make sure that they're all as to our standards or are to things that we're happy with, basically, so that we're not building out using things that all of a sudden you realize actually we've been using this one and we shouldn't have been, or there's bigger changes and they just build up over time. So tech and design debt builds up and it just becomes a big issue for us in the future. And then so as opposed to doing one sprint or two sprints to fix things, you allocate a little bit of time to just like do a bit of housekeeping on things, making sure stuff is all good, because it's our job still to sort of maintain this, keep it up to a certain standard and make sure that it's not going down any routes that we don't want it to go down. So it's just an idea to maybe utilize UI to code a bit more about, can we make sure that things are still aligning between Figma and between the repo? And if they're not, what action items can we take from that to make sure that we're keeping things on track? Set up small little side issues. Maybe we can, I know Nathan did a lot of work on streamlining tags and things like that in GitLab itself. So maybe we could have one for like slippers maintenance or something like that to just make a change or make an edit, not to add any more. That would just take a load away, but it could be an idea to keep on top of things as we go, because we want to keep the system healthy, especially as we get further down the line of bigger numbers. And then when teams begin to use it, we're going to have things reinforced to make sure that they don't break.
Makes sense. I think that I think adding something like that to the UI to code meeting, like a prompt or like a section that's like, hey, like what's changing or what has slipped through cracks, like that sort of thing, where like it can be a lot more collaborative between design and engineering would be good. Walking away from the last one we had, I was like, oh man, this was like an engineering meeting. Like, which I think it's like, I would also love to hear you all talk about design as well. Like, I think it's good. It's just good to like, it is collaborative to like listen to what's going on. But I know that meeting is like, it's like UI to code, right? And so I want to just make sure that like, I don't know, anything we can do like prompts or something like that, just a touch of structure that's not a ton of overhead, like a ton of prep work for us, but something that like prompts us all to be more collaborative between design and engineering. I think we could get a lot out of that meeting in that regard.
Yeah, and there's no harm if those meetings take a more engineering heavy approach. Kind of a good thing because then it means we have a system that's built up to a certain standard and it's quite big. So that's kind of the nature of the beast. And every now and then, if there's anything new that needs to be added to it from design, we can obviously bring it up there. But I guess it would be to optimize that meeting a bit more. And if we don't feel it's optimized, how can we make sure that it sort of speaks to the needs that we have as the system grows, as our team uses the system and other teams use the system? And there might be further discussion as we begin to open it up to other teams of how we support them, what channels of communication we want to have. We don't just want to be like an on-call, random Slack messages falling in left, right, and center. So just things that we can sort of use that meeting to optimize for.
Awesome.
I had a quick, just one last thing. Sorry, not to keep. Are we still using the like digital experience labels that we've created for ourselves? The ones that Brandon made, are those still being used? What is our?
Yeah, they're being used right now, but the first iteration that Michael and I have gone through, we're actually removing them. So keep using them, pretending like nothing's gonna happen, and then when we're in a good place, Michael and I will share all the labeling with everybody, and we'll go over a couple iterations of it, and then yeah, hopefully it'll be a lot simpler. But right now, yeah, continue using them. I think they're used on one of the Kanban boards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason why I brought that up was okay. Then I promise that's related to what we were talking about. For slippers, we have this, so I figured like it's pretty much like what we have like for the Kanban board, but it's just like straight up like for slippers related items only. So like for UI to code related discussion, like maybe this would be a good place to start since it's like all this stuff is just right here. So, and this is like no extra work on on our end, just because it's tags that we already use, so or labels that we already use. I just want to call them tags, like they're tags to me, but labels.
Sweet. Nothing else on that. I can move on to Barker.
Yeah. It's good we're talking about health. Something really well is, well, not, we had some like caching issues with the nav change. And we were able to use that as an opportunity to advocate for repository help desk, which I'm so excited. It's really a great opportunity for everyone on the team to sit back for a day and work on what they think is important, which I think is great because we all have like different thoughts and we're all going to come at it from a different angle. So it's going to be really exciting to see what we can do with that day.
Thank you for doing that. I see a lot of +1s, Javi, Tina. I don't know if anyone wants to vocalize. I just like, thanks for putting together that MR and for the collaboration there. If anyone else has stuff on that.
Yeah, I want to thank you too for doing that, because this has been on the UX team's mind too, on how we can manage our health of our UI and UX and all of that. So, you know, after you kind of released that MR and that handbook page, I looked at it and I was like, you know what, we designers can use this too. And then I brought it up on my one-on-one with Michael, and he's supportive. And, you know, I think Justin Stephen and I can coordinate on what we can do for our own kind of design health day. I don't know what to call it. I mean, our design assets are in a repo anyway, so it can be under the same umbrella.
I think there's I did a little play on words there for marketing. And instead of calling it tech debt, which no one was doing anything about, call it health. And all of a sudden it just took off. Awesome.
It's really smart.
Yeah, definitely.
Marketing genius.
There you go. Another silver lining about the caching issues. I'll be brief, but if folks watching this want more details, like this, I have a hypothesis, haven't had a chance to verify this. I think what we saw in the caching issues has been an existing problem for a long time. And I think that the nav changes, because they were so big and like global and obvious for when things were like broken in the cache, like surfaced a deeper problem that we've had in the past. So just as part of like, the silver lining of the caching issues, the repository health stuff, like I think that this problem has existed, and like we just like got the squeakiest wheel we possibly could have by launching this huge nav change, right? And I think it just gave us like a really good something, a canary in a gold mine sort of thing. Anyways, I just think that I think that's a net positive, along with the health days. Cool. Anyone else? Anything else on repository health days or things that went well? Cool. Seeing none, we can go on to things to improve on. And Tina, you've got the first one there.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up just because I didn't stay on top of the READMEs in the Figma files that I delivered specifically to Tyler, which led to uncertainty in building some of the components. I feel like I responded to a lot of questions that I had already worked out, but I didn't document, and that wasted some of Tyler's time. And so it's like a good reminder at how valuable those READMEs are to engineers. So yeah, I'm making a commitment to add READMEs early on, even though I anticipate change. Like I didn't add them. I did have a reason. It wasn't because I was necessarily being lazy. The pages were having user testing running on them. And I was like, this is all going to change. I don't want to waste time on READMEs, but I should have just put them.
And I think you had flagged that to me as well. Like I wasn't surprised, right? Like I was in the same, I was like, oh yeah, like it'll change. And then like, we'll just get the info when it's settled. And then the synchronization of it was like, I ended up needing the answers faster than we would have thought. So but it worked out great. And you were always very responsive to questions. So thank you. Jess, I think you're up next.
Yeah, so kind of adding on to what I was talking about in the things that went well, going through the Figma slippers, realizing like we're not really nesting our components the way we should be. Like if we have a link within a card, we should be going back to the original link, and we're not really using auto layout like we should be. And auto layout's my nemesis. I don't really understand how it works. I'm trying, so I know I need to get better at that. So I just kind of like noted it as like we still need. There's a lot we still need to do on the slippers Figma. Learn Flexbox. But it was just like too much to do in 1 week. So I'm kind of like, okay, that's a to do for not just me, but for all the designers on our team, to figure out how to do it and be better about like knowing like if we have a component, we need to go back to the original one. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for that. Tina, do you want to talk about tutorial day?
I was just thinking that maybe we can plan a day once a month or something like that where we get together and learn something in Figma, just like block off time specifically for that instead of trying to learn stuff as we need them.
I think we're gonna have to find somebody who understands Figma, because I know all three of us, like we all learned it when we started here.
Yeah,
I meant
an outside educator.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might be an idea to lean on the product team for that. They are very proficient with that. It's just hard to get them all in the one spot because they're sort of scattered around timelines. And then the one meeting that I did get or do get invited to happens at 7 or 7:30 on a Thursday, which would mean your day starts early and it's extra long with meetings. But you do get to find out a little bit. They're so advanced with the product. The stuff that they're talking about is really, really minute compared to the amount of work that they've done, but they've been at it for 2 years or maybe more. But their Figma file is in pretty good shape, and Jeremy Eller's pretty proficient at Figma. So, oh, sorry, my seat nearly broke there. That would have been embarrassing on a recording. But yeah, he's good to reach out to, and always very receptive, and the team over there is pretty good. So it could be an idea to try and get some of their knowledge if we can. I know there's tons of tutorials, but there's like 8 different ways to do one simple thing, and we all may have a different way of doing it. So it's tricky to just find that balance.
I think it would be a good idea to align our workflow with the product team's workflow. They have more designers working with their files, so they kind of have a system set up probably already with components.
Yeah, the main girl, Tori, I forget her name, Tori, it could be Davis. I have to check. She's very good with the sort of organization around their system. So maybe I can look into setting up some time with her.
Excellent. Anything else on that note or other things to improve on? Cool. I don't see anything in action items. I know for me, like I'm clear on just like what I'm working on next. Like everything I have is like gonna end up in the planning doc for next one. Anyone want to add anything before we end recording and sign off here?
I think we had that last thing, like we need to plan a day for the designers to learn some stuff.
Cool. Sweet. I see Tina's writing that down. Thank you. Cool. Anything else?
I'll add something. When's gonna be our first repository health day? And next sprint, or want to push it out a little longer? I don't know.
Well, are we doing the days we're doing ad hoc, right? Like anyone can pick a day and the week we're planning? Is that, I thought that was the sort of, that's the vibe I got from the MR.
It's up to us. It's the first iteration. So it's really up to us how we want to implement it.
Were you guys thinking like every iteration there would be one health day, or is that too much or too little?
Yeah, that's what every iteration one day. The health week, we'll have to wait. We got to plan that out and see where that lands.
If it's per iteration, I would really like to treat it the way that we've treated like the agency day in the past, or I guess like how we sort of have sometimes. I know that has changed, but like I would like to choose a day based on workload. I would just like to reserve just 2 points and just say like I have 2 points held out for repository health, and then like get like fitted in with whatever comes up. Like I usually just kind of like take it day by day in terms of what I'm working on, and I just go through priority lists. And I imagine that means that like it'll end up being the last day of the iteration for me personally, but I would prefer to be able to choose that rather than try and sync up on just a single day.
That sounds great. It's really a smart way to tackle it. Yeah.
I think the big challenge is making sure that we have like and we might not have it for this upcoming one, of like a prioritized list of what we should work on to communicate like what should be done, and then also communicate what you are doing, right? I think maybe that's the missing piece, but I don't know if we have that. I actually already have like a couple things lined up for next iteration that I was just going to do anyways, but I may call them a health day task, like the bootstrap upgrade. I'm going to call it health day because it's like it's a vulnerability, we have a thing, like, just do it. Anyways, but I don't know if we have a better list that we could pull from to begin.
We could add a tag so we can see all those MRs.
Yeah, Nathan, what do you think? New tag? One more? Can we have another tag?
Oh,
Another label?
there's like 1,000 labels. We'll have to think.
So what's
about
one more? That's not even 1%.
And make it green.
We'll consider it.
Okay.
But yeah, we definitely need like a backlog of, or at least some way to flag, health work.
I would like just a way so we can look at our merge requests, have one link and see all the merge requests that are categorized as like repository health days. Because then it'd be fun to look back, 3 months later and be like, whoa, look at all the great stuff that's come from this.
Nathan, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna add this action item for you, since you're already doing all this work with Michael on the label, whatever that ends up looking like. Action item for backlog, obviously collaborative, but I figure you're a good person to start it with, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, that works.
Sweet. Awesome. Anything else? Great. Well, I will end the recording. Thanks so much for everyone for watching and for participating and all of the good things. And enjoy your weekend. See ya.